Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The long range meta here in Warzone Season 2 is actually in a decently fun spot. It's certainly a lot more competitive than the long range meta was back in Season 1, where it was just XM4 and then a different XM4, and then you realized that the different XM4 wasn't as good as your original XM4, and that was about it, right? But now we actually have some decent diversity in the long range meta, a couple of different really solid options across multiple different weapon classes, and today I want to break down the newly updated long range meta, the best weapons to use and the best loadouts for those weapons, starting first with one that hasn't gotten much attention this year, but it's honestly very good, the AMES. This thing's creeping up. It silently has gotten a lot better and a lot better over the course of Warzone so far. It's got a pretty competitive TTK throughout. Its damage per mag is a little bit iffy here and there, but it's not terrible by any means, and it's incredibly easy to use. So good TTK, good mobility too, easy to use. It's checking a lot of the right boxes there. I really like the feel of this thing. As far as the optic goes, first and foremost, as always, this is a preference thing. I like the 3 times. I like the 2 times a lot. I go back and forth there, but use whatever scope you want to. Just make sure it's comfortable and accurate for you. Suppressor keeps me off the radar. This thing's easy enough to use that I don't feel like I need to have a compensator or anything like that on there. I do like reinforced. We are just going for a 5 attachment build here, no gunfighter. So, you know, if I was using gunfighter, I might go long barrel and then overpressured ammo, or long barrel and then recoil springs or something. But reinforced here gives you almost a 56 meter effective damage range, then a 931 velocity. Both of those are fantastic stats, right? Ranger foregrip on here, I mean, this is, like I said, a versatile rifle, so if you can get some sprinting move speed, gives you some options in the mid-range for sure, keeps it a little bit more consistent there. Plus, horizontal control makes the weapon a lot more predictable. Then lastly, extended 2 here is going to give you 60. It's a decently fast RPM at 750 for a rifle here, so you do kind of burn through ammo. You got to make sure you're landing your shots. Every bullet's going to count here, but luckily, it's easy enough of a weapon to use that you're going to probably be pretty accurate with it without having to work all that much. So you get a very lower risk, high reward style rifle. I like it a lot. If you haven't checked out the AMES yet much this year, would highly recommend. And right alongside the AMES, we've got the Model L. I've been bouncing back and forth with these two a lot. My preference personally leans a little bit towards the Model L, but you really can't go wrong with either of these. They're both fantastic, super competitive options now, and they're both incredibly easy to use. This build is going to be very similar to that of the AMES build, right? I do go for the Jason Armory 2 times in this case, just simply mixing it up, right? You gotta keep things fresh here and there. I go again for the basic suppressor, not too worried about the control in this case. Long barrel here though, with that effective damage range being 80 meters. That is utterly absurd. So you're not going to have to worry about any range with this thing. You are going to be frying at all of them. And the velocity 820 is decent too. If you wanted reinforced, you're still going to get a ridiculous range at 71 meters and then just over 1,000 velos. So really just depends on how much you value velocity versus range and what you feel the most comfortable with, but there's no real wrong answer there. Vertical foregrip here just to maximize that horizontal control. This isn't necessarily a rifle that I'm going to be as aggressive with as the AMES, for instance here. It's primarily a mid to long range one, whereas you can get away with a little bit more with the AMES. Either way though, I mean, the control here is going to be a lot more predictable with vertical. Then extended 2 is going to be a 50 rounder here. This fire rate's not as crazy though, only a 600 RPM, so you're not going to necessarily burn through that by any means. This is certainly a gun that would, benefit from gunfighter as well, having recoil springs or overpressured on there, a balanced stock, ergonomic rear grip, stuff like that. You could definitely mess around with too, and it's going to be a fantastic choice there as well. Now, unlike the Model L and then also the AMES, the AK has a crazy good TTK. Its control not on the same level though. TTK faster, control worse. So that's a significant trade-off there. If you know what you're doing with the AK and you know the bounce and you're familiar with the pattern, you're going to be set because this thing will melt everyone, but you got to put more time and effort into truly mastering this. So there is that added skill gap there, but I personally love the feel of the AK. Again, go for whatever optic you're comfortable with, 2 times, 3 times, whatever other one might fit your play style. I like the suppressor for like resurgence. On big map, you may want to try out a compensator or even recoil springs just to keep that recoil under control if you're okay with showing up on the radar there. Obviously, some players really do value though staying hidden off that mini map, right? Reinforced barrel is going to be pretty important here, extending out that damage range at 70 meters, velocity just under 1,000, so both fantastic stats there. You definitely want to use the maximum horizontal control under barrel here in the form of vertical, just to make the gun as predictable as possible, right? And then lastly, extended 2 in this case will be a 50 rounder. You could jump up to extended 3. The gun's going to be a little bit slower. You get 10 extra bullets, so if you really value those 10 shots and you're okay with the slowdown, go for it. Really just a matter of preference there. I feel like 50 works just fine for how I engage with the AK, but yeah, this thing is a powerhouse. Now, shifting away from the rifles for a bit, the XMG LMG, a really heavy hitter here over range, right? It's going to be relatively low recoil. It does have that buffer weight stock. It wasn't nerfed on the XMG as much as it was on the XM4. And that said, it means it's going to be a laser beam still with minimal cons. It's going to be a bit slower. Yes, it's an LMG, surprise, surprise, but great TTK over range. You don't have to work too hard to achieve that fast TTK. Again, I go for the Jason Armory 2 times, bounce back and forth with the 3 times. Suppressor, reinforced barrel here as well. We get a 57 meter effective damage range, 924 velocity. That works just fine. I actually go for fast mag 1 here. It's a 75 rounder. That's going to work okay with this rate of fire, 697. And the reload doesn't take as long. You don't want to slow reload in this game. You don't want to spend your time just putting more magazines in. You want to get back into the fight. So that helps out with that a little bit. And then of course, buffer weight stock. Slightly nerfed, but not as bad as on the XM4. And it's still going to make the gun very, very easy to use. So XMG as an LMG is a top choice. And by the way, as we are breaking down all the weapons here today, if you enjoy the video, you find the information helpful, a like rating is always really appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, maybe you haven't subscribed yet, maybe you're a first-time viewer, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in Call of Duty. So if you want to stay in the know, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up, another LMG, the Feng. This thing is kind of awkward. I'm still not in love with the feel of it, but its TTK over range is honestly pretty good. It's not too great in the mid-range, but then once you surpass, 40, 45 meters and beyond, it's going to be a very competitive choice. So truly, the long-range meta, this would fall under that criteria for sure. 3 times optic here, no change there. Suppressor, long barrel in this case, you could go for reinforced if you want. That'll up the velo to 851. But if you really want that better damage range, 52 for there as opposed to 46 with reinforced. Just a matter of how much you value that velocity feel and where you're engaging the most with this, quite frankly. Ranger full grip, this thing is slow and heavy, so if I can get some horizontal control but some movement speed at the same time, that's a win in my book. And then I go for extended 1. That's 50. With this fire rate, it's not going to burn through that at all. Only a 461 RPM, which does mean you have to be pretty accurate with your shots. It's a bit more unforgiving. That TTK will fall off a lot if you don't consistently land your shots, but with this setup, it's not too difficult to do so. We do have a couple of sniper builds that we have to mention for the long-range meta. All of these are one-shot headshot capable. First up here, the Frostline. This is going to be the nice mix of slightly shorter one-shot headshot range, but faster ADS. So for more aggressive sniping, this might be your preferred choice here. We're rocking the suppressor, keeps us off the radar. Long barrel will extend our one-shot headshot range out to 73 meters, which is pretty generous, all things considered there. Extended 1 is great. It's going to slow down your reload a little bit, but you get 7 rounds, so you don't have to reload as often. Fast mag is decent though, because it will speed up that ADS. So if you want a slightly quicker one, you only get 4 shots as opposed to 5, but that's certainly an option worth looking into. Quick draw riser will help out with that ADS speed. This is a 475, so pretty quick by comparison. And then overpressured ammo ups that velocity up over 1,000, so you don't have to worry too much about bullet drop or bullet lead within that hit scan range. It'll be a pretty straightforward and easy sniper to use. Hey everyone, real quick, just wanted to give a shout out to my friends over at G Fuel. If you are trying to stay energized, hydrated, focused, G Fuel has you covered in all areas. They've got the brand new hydration and focus sticks, which I gotta say are absolutely phenomenal. They of course have a bunch of different flavors for your standard energy formula and loads to choose from for their cans as well. So they got you covered on all fronts if you're looking to stay hydrated, energized, focused, whether you're gaming, doing work, school, whatever the case is. If you ever want to grab anything at all from the G Fuel site, be sure to throw in code WHosImmortal at checkout. That'll help save you some money on your order. Link for that will be down in the description below. And then following that, the LR762 is basically the exact same setup. This one just has a slightly further one-shot range, so I'm still rocking the suppressor. With the long barrel here, though, it's 85 meters, so much further one-shot distance, but the ADS speed is only 535, and yes, that's with that quick draw grip on there. So in this case, if you wanted to switch over to Fast Mag 2, you could drop that ADS down to 511. Not going to be much faster, but it's something. But I also like Extended Mag 1, just not having to reload as often is nice. Then again, overpressured ammo on here, velocity is 1058, so that's going to work great for the hit scan range and the bullet drop and bullet lead. I love the feel of the BO6 snipers this year. They're really, really reliable. Another sniper I'd recommend looking into is actually the VICTUS. This has really good one-shot range as well. It's obviously not a BO6 one, but it's one that you might not have used a ton the past couple of years because it wasn't all that great, and now it actually can contend with some other meta options here. So for an optic, I don't like the default one too much. It's a little too zoomed in for me. I like the 6.6 times, so I run that personally. Spirit Fire Suppressor here will help extend out that range and that velocity. The Super Barrel's also going to help out with range and velocity. Then I also run High Grain Ammo, which helps out with range and velocity. So we get an 86 meter one-shot headshot here and almost a 1200 velocity. So the hit scan range is going to be even better than on something like the LR762. The ADS in this case is a tad bit slower at 578. I do use the Rise 50 stock to help out with that a little bit. So a little bit heavier, but also really, really easy to use in terms of bullet drop and bullet lead. And it might be fresh to you if you haven't used it too much in the past few years. And all right, fine. We'll talk about the XM4. It's still a long range option for sure. It's not going to be as good as it was in season 1 by any means. It's noticeably slower. The recoil is noticeably worse, but it's still pretty easy to use, all things considered, and definitely not out of the meta conversation by any means. So here again, 3 times optic, surprise, surprise, suppressor and long barrel. Our effective damage range is going to be 48 meters. 800 velocity is sufficient. It could get better if you wanted to use gunfighter. You absolutely could. Reinforce could help out there too with a 960. You're down to a 41 meter range though. Just depends on what you value there yet again. Extended 2, honestly, I've been running more than the extended 3. The 100 round is just so slow. 431 ADS. You got the sprint to fire penalties. Just not a huge fan of it. Extended 2, 60 rounds works fine with this fire rate. So I run that and it's not nearly as slow. Then buffer weight stock, again, it's slow. It's not aggressive by any means, but for long range, you don't necessarily need all that aggression. If you want a more balanced build, you can unironically run the balanced stock here, and that'll be a lot more agile and just aggressive in general. Or you could even switch that out for something like recoil springs if you wanted to instead, and that'll help out with overall control. Or you could do overpressured ammo and get better velocity, right? I think there's a couple of different ways you can build out the XM4 now, all of which will be good, and it's not one definitive just clear absolute meta, super boring, which I guess is good news. And then lastly, I do think the Goblin is worth mentioning. Probably the highest skill gap weapon in the video today because it is semi-auto, but if you can stay on target, this thing's going to fry at pretty much every single range. But even in the long range here, you know, if someone's camping on a heady and you can just tap a couple of times, you're gonna knock them quicker than they can react and, you know, unmount or, you know, back up into cover, right? Here again, 3 times suppressor. Reinforced barrel here will give us a 54 meter effective damage range, 943 velocity. Really like that combo. Extended 2, 50 rounder. It's semi-auto. You're in control of how fast you burn through that. I do use rapid fire, which helps you burn through it a little bit faster, but it also is going to give you a more optimal TTK or potential TTK if you can stay on target and spam this almost at that fire rate cap. This is a, like I said, higher skill gap option, but also incredibly fun. And when you fry with it, I mean, it just feels so rewarding. And that being said, that is the current long range meta here in Warzone. That's gonna wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee that every single day you are in the know for all things going on in COD, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.